And in the upper left, in the red, he's playing for Basilisk Gaming. He did take Spirit down yesterday. He's the hope against PVT, at least according to that interview. It's Trigger.
And his opponent looking to go for a clean 5-0 in his group for the prestige as much as anything. It is HeRoMaRinE for mousesports.
And you know, Steadfast, I know we've been talking about this all weekend, but when you and I took a look at the groups, right, when they came out and afterwards on Real Talk Strategy, there were a couple groups we said, okay, I can see a 5-0 here. I can see Cyril 5-0ing his group. That would not be too surprising. In fact, the bigger question is, does Cyril lose a map on his route to 5-0ing his group? It's kind of, I think, the general consensus there. I didn't have, and again, we're getting ahead of ourselves. Trigger can win, HeRoMaRinE can lose. That is very true. But I didn't have HeRoMaRinE on the final day of this group in position. Even on that side, I didn't even have him in position to top, or not topping his group. I didn't even have him in a position to go 5-0. As the probe and the SCV, they trade their lives, but Trigger gets it first. Clearly the hero probe.
Yeah, that's pretty cute. I think that's something you're okay with is HeRoMaRinE, but that is a pretty cool play. Now, something interesting about that is that actually didn't scout the barracks, so he doesn't know that there's no proxy. And he might drop something like a very early shield battery. He did go for this early zealot, so Trigger not entirely sure what's going on here. But we'll see the timing of that Reaper, and actually gets a nice little swipe right there. Oh, and another one actually. HeRoMaRinE's gonna have to be a little bit careful. He's somewhat corralled. Okay, will get himself out of here. But yeah, this is a group that oh wow, killing that Reaper is actually a big deal. So that second zealot swipe was kind of huge. No scout now for HeRoMaRinE, and that will be a blind situation. He's not going to know that there's a Twilight Council on the map. That's kind of a big deal. But we do have to mention that, yeah, this is a situation where, you know, HeRoMaRinE doesn't have to have his foot on the gas all the way. He will obviously still play to win. He will do everything he can. But this is, for all intents and purposes, kind of a show match right now for these two players.
Yeah, it's Trigger wants to win because he doesn't want to have any shot of getting knocked down to 6th place. Now, granted, that would take him probably losing pretty poorly and Spirit beating Solar, which is also going to be very hard. But, you know, you don't want to make sure that happens. You want to get the $500 for winning the series. HeRoMaRinE, you're right. He does have his eye on maybe some bigger and better things. But for now, Steadfast, we've got a medevac on the way. We've got 4 Marines. We've got a Cyclone. We got HeRoMaRinE. I don't want to say taking a page out of Clem's book because, well, HeRoMaRinE does his own thing. He's got his own brand of nonsense. But this is very much something that Clem's been doing, right? This early Cyclone Marine drop, this kind of kitchen sink. I'm going to run everything I can across the map. But, well, as I say that, we got tanks on the way. Marines are being rallied across here. HeRoMaRinE wants to get something done.
Yeah, he's certainly going to try. Trigger, on his part, is going for a build we don't see that often on this map pool just because it's not a great map pool for it. You can still go for it. It's going to be a 4-gate blink play. Now, there's only 3 stalkers here, only 2 in the main base. No shield battery either. Trigger is a player that likes to skip shield battery. No break on the Cyclone's lock-on. Good pickup from HeRoMaRinE. No player technically loses anything, but the Terran units are repairable and healable, whereas Trigger's units, yes, they will regenerate shields. However, that hull damage is permanent. However, HeRoMaRinE's got to be very careful. He did spot the 2 additional gateways, and that should let him know exactly what's going on. He's seen every gateway. So he's got a good wall at the natural. He's got a siege tank well set up as well, and second siege tank about to pop out. This is still such a dangerous push. Oh, that would almost gets the medevac. That would have been huge, actually.
Is it almost worth it there to go and send your very low stalker that's likely to die anyways and to go knock that Cyclone down before it gets repaired? Probably not. Or you want the critical mass of stalkers, but oh, Raven.
I don't think maybe. It's hard to tell. I like that he keeps it alive instead. Does blink forward, grabs the medevac, will spread out these stalkers, but maybe wasn't anticipating that second tank in the main base. Last shot is big from that tank. There is the War Prism Micro for second blink. We are going to see that Cyclone did contribute a fair bit to pushing this back here, so maybe killing that earlier would have been nice. But there's still some danger here. Now, all the tanks are still alive. They are in a good position, but they can't lock down the entire main base just yet. So Trigger is going to be able to wait for his next blink before he goes in. Actually, even using the War Prism to draw the Cyclone's fire. That was cute.
That it was. Use the War Prism to draw the Cyclone's fire. Use a Zealot, drop that on top to draw the tank fire. But now we're going to have to run away once again. Too many Marines are here. And it's funny. You talk about this being, maybe something we don't see all that often on this map because, well, it's not the best map for it. The main ramp is not nearly as large as others. We know that Trigger, at least I don't know that we know. Trigger takes a lot of cues out of MaxPax. He really studies him. He models a lot of his play off of how MaxPax chooses to play StarCraft. And Steadfast, I know we say, yeah, this is maybe not the best map for 4-gate blink. Absolutely, I'm with you there. But if there's one player that we'd say, he's probably going to 4-gate blink regardless, his name is MaxPax. So Trigger, again, taking a page out of that book as he continues to poke in, poke out, look for some damage. The problem is, he has killed a grand total of 4 SCVs, Steadfast, and not a ton of bio either. He's going to try to maybe run in just a little bit more, but the tanks, they're doing a lot of damage. Eventually, this first tank seems like it's going to fall down. There's no repair on it, but that is a ton of damage on these Stalkers. And again, the problem continues. Trigger has these Stalkers that he has not gotten a ton of work done with. They've taken a lot of damage. He's lost a significant amount of them, and Stim is just about done. Combat shields are just about done. +1 is just about done. We're going to see concussive shells eventually after this. This army that HeRoMaRinE has made has not really been slowed down, and his economy hasn't been slowed down either.
No, Trigger is going to have to kite with these Stalkers very nicely. He did pick off a Marauder there. He's going to be able to get a couple more Marines here. He's got charge completing very shortly. Already on 6, soon to... Well, actually, no, the 7th gates is ways away. But he's already on 6 gates. Raven actually takes a lot of damage. Does get 1 auto turret down. Only 2 SCV... Or, 2 probes. Meanwhile, 2 SCVs on the other side of the map getting taken down. And we're going to see a warp in aggressively. Honestly, I'm liking the way Trigger is playing this very much. Battery overcharge will get popped. Will get targeted down, but the force field splitting up the army pretty well. And some good blink micro from Trigger. However, he is out of units. I think that warp in on the other side of the map is going to prove to be just a little bit too much away from the defense. If that Zealot warp in was at home, I think he cleans this up right here and now. But as it is, he loses 14 probes. The attack is still going. Those tanks are wailing away at the army. They will finally maybe go down here, but the damage might have just been done.
You know, Steadfast, I don't even think that...
Oh, that last tank shot.
Oh, that was juicy. I don't even think that the problem was necessarily that he warped in on the other side of the map. Yes, it did take away power from home, but the problem more than anything else was the fact that his Stalkers were sitting in tank fire as Trigger's trying to buy some time and do the warp in. So his Stalkers ate like 1 or 2 tank shots before he pulled them back into the 3rd base and before they tried to establish that defensive position. And he might have had enough, actually, with the Stalkers and with a shield battery overcharge and buying some time to make that warp-in happen. And you get the next round of warp-in with the Zealots and be okay because you're sitting outside of tank range. But he took 2 big tank shots on those Stalkers, and that is just not how... That's too much damage. So at this point, Trigger is equal on workers. He's down 20-odd army supply. Resources lost are going to really tell the tail of the tape more than anything else. He's down 2,500 resources. Has HeRoMaRinE won the game? Well, Trigger's still in it, so technically no. But he has built himself almost I don't want to say a nigh insurmountable advantage, but a pretty decent one.
Yeah, Trigger did not feel like he could build probes for a while.
No.
He just now started doing so once again. Oh, okay, good job. He gets on top of that Widowmine. Second one will get into the main base. The Observer does spot the army of HeRoMaRinE crossing the map. Trigger, nice job, splits the probes and will be able to clean this up. So there's that. But he's felt compelled to build nothing but army, and he still can't really compete because, of course, his opponent has mules, even though the worker counts were even. Now with HeRoMaRinE landing that 3rd command center in earnest, things are going to get a hell of a lot more difficult for Trigger, and he's already down 30 army supply. This is just not a comfy position, but I really do think that if he'd used that warp in at home, we would be looking at a completely different game. As it is, huge doom drop going into the main base. Trigger's got nothing in position to deal with this simply because he doesn't have the unit count. And it's a quick recall. Snap calls on this. Very nice SimCity and great force fields. Perfect decision making here from Trigger. Really well done under the gun. And that is actually going to give him a chance all of a sudden. Nice blink forward, going to grab a couple medevacs. Oh my God, Trigger, fantastic crisis management.
Yeah, he does still have to worry about this, but the fact that he only took two pros worth of damage, knocked down, I think, like 3 medevacs, a significant portion of the army. He's going to get, maybe, he's going to get the 4th.
That snipe.
That's actually very significant. Now, the army of HeRoMaRinE is still terrifying. Absolutely, the rallies are going to find their way in, but the Viking will fall. Zealots have to kite away. Widow Mines aren't going off, not just yet. And our second problem, Steadfast, is that there are more Marauders than Marines. There are more Marauders than anything in this game, so the Stalkers don't fight. The Colossus doesn't really fight. The Zealots are getting shredded by Widow Mines. And while that was really good for Trigger to make sure he didn't die in the moment, he still doesn't have what he needs to deal with this. What are we looking at? It's 16 Marauders and 14 Marines. This heavy Marauder count is something that the army of Trigger is just not properly equipped to deal with.
Yeah, HeRoMaRinE just rallying in, knowing that even with Trigger blocking that attack and dealing with it very well, he was still on the back foot. Trigger, I think, got a little bit too confident, and I don't blame him. That was such a great cleanup in the main base, but I think that is what HeRoMaRinE was looking for. We are going to see this War Prism on the other side of the map try and dislodge HeRoMaRinE. There's actually nothing at home right now. Oh, this is where if you have that big 7, 8, 9 Zealot warp in, that's where things can get really messy for the Terran player. But unfortunately, he doesn't have that there. It's just a few Zealots. Will be nice little bit of damage, but not going to be the kind of thing that'll get him back into the game just yet. He does spot his opponent's entire army. If he had a cheeky Disruptor, could have dropped that on top of the army, but of course he's going for this more stable Colossus. Didn't have extended thermal lance, which that does hurt a lot in these big fights. He is going to skirmish and find at least a little bit of a pushback on this army, but once again, it just feels like HeRoMaRinE is kind of just waiting for this 2-2 timing, and once that completes, might just go with a huge army, and I do not know how Trigger can survive that next wave without at least like 3 big, at least 3 disruptors, probably 2 big disruptor shots.
I think the play that we're seeing from Trigger right now is probably the correct one. Is Widow Mines are going to clean these Zealots up. You play as solidly and defensively at home as possible. Step 1. And you just want to make sure you have this Warp Prism on the other side. You make it really hard for HeRoMaRinE to bring his entire army together. Certainly some of it, and HeRoMaRinE has been extremely effective with this army that he has on the right side, but you don't let him bring his entire army together, because at that point you're probably dead. So you keep a little bit of harass going, you force HeRoMaRinE to play a little bit safer, a little bit more defensively, and then that gives you maybe some time to, if not max out, at least get 2-1, at least get your disruptors out, at least develop maybe a 4th base, and give yourself more of a fighting chance into this game, because again, this is going to be a long road for Trigger to come back into it, if he's going to even be able to do so, as a ton of bios going to find a bunch of gateway units and Steadfast. I don't need to tell you how this fight's going to go. Certainly, as the bio's up 2 upgrades, that is never a fight that Trigger's going to be able to take easily, but he sends a Colossus over, and that makes it that much better. And at this point, what are we looking at? This should be 4 disruptors pretty soon. +2 or +1 armor is going to be done soon, so it's only going to be a single upgrade lead. And again, Trigger's not, I'm not trying to say Trigger's in a good spot. He absolutely is not. But he's slowly building an army that has at least a puncher's chance of doing something to the Terran.
More impressed by the fact that he continues to be in position for every attack. He hasn't had the units to fight what HeRoMaRiNE's doing. He's had a much smaller army this whole time, but he continues to make himself look bigger than he is. We are going to see HeRoMaRiNE, though, even though Trigger has done such a good job, HeRoMaRiNE recognizes how far ahead he's been. The split army finally enough to overwhelm Trigger. But me, oh my, what a showing from Trigger from a super dead position. HeRoMaRiNE, though, he is, of course, the favorite, and his TVP is some of the deadliest in the business. He goes up 1-0.
That he does, and we're not surprised. You know, we were looking at that game, and it's like, well, yeah, HeRoMaRiNE's won the game probably, but at what point does he win the game? And Trigger was doing what he could to try to find his way back into it and give himself the best possible chance of, you know, look, it wasn't ever going to be a 50% chance after how bad that early game was, but it was going to be maybe a 5% chance, and you're working yourself up to it. And maybe if you're lucky, you can go into a 10%. And maybe you hit a big disruptor shot and you can go further. And in a setup like IEM Katowice, which granted, Hero or Trigger cannot advance anymore. That is very true. He wants to make sure he secures 5th place because that's more money. There's pride on the line. There's $500 on the line. I will never begrudge a player for sticking it in until their opponent forces them to get out, because there are those weird opportunities when you run it out to first base and your opponent throws it over their head and you get a double, right? There are these opportunities always where you can force a mistake and maybe claw your way back into a game. Obviously, it didn't happen this time. We're gonna have to see maybe if Trigger's got something special for us ready in game 2, because it's gonna be on Hecate. And friends, we're ready to go in. In the upper right, in the blue, he's up 1, playing masterfully in that first game. It's HeRoMaRinE.
And his opponent spawning down in the bottom left for Basilisk. It is Trigger. And he really did hold on magnificently there. I really think the one big mistake for him was where he put that Zealot Warp into the main base instead of at the front, because I like off of a 4-gate blink. You talk about emulating MaxPax's style. He doesn't go 4-gate blink on these maps, but he played it very similarly to that, where he tries to find damage for as long as he can. Then he takes the third base once he realizes his opponent is locked down on defense. But you can play that out as long as you retain the Stalkers very well, which is something that MaxPax does very well. And it's something that Trigger did very well in that game as well, right up until that fight outside of the third, when he just didn't have the units to keep him alive and to kind of keep those Stalkers safe. He did keep the Nexus alive ultimately, but the probe damage would prove to ultimately be lethal. Still very impressive from Trigger, and it's nice to see that even though, you know, he's already been eliminated, he is actually playing at he's playing at a world-class level.
I mean, to qualify to get to Katowice, you have to be able to play at a world-class level. So it doesn't surprise me, but it is good to see. And, you know, again, going back to that last game, I think you're right about the Zealot Warp in, but there was a world where he maybe holds on or buys enough time, even with the Stalkers that he had. But he ate 2 tank shots before he pulled his Stalkers back, and that is a good way to lose a fight. Stalkers are so fragile against a bunch of tanks. So for now, though, Reaper's going to show up on the other side. This is not quite as zany as the Reaper we had in game 1, where you're just trying to convince your opponent that, well, there's nothing there. You play a little bit of will they, won't they? Or you're going to go left side, you're going to go right side, bring around the Rosie a little bit. But that means the Reaper gets into the main base. Probes are going to have to get pulled off the line for this, and there's no Adept here, not really. So not a single probe is going to go down at the moment. Nice micro there, and he gets the Reaper too. Well done, Trigger.
Well, he did get 1 probe.
Oh, okay.
He was actually able to snipe it from behind, but good call or good kill right there from Trigger on the Reaper. And he did something interesting, which is that he kept the Reaper kind of occupied with those probes. So once again, HeRoMaRinE does not get the scout. But I wonder if HeRoMaRinE is just... Oh, wow, I didn't even realize the Widowmine gets a kill on the Adept. Oh, now is going to play Ring Around the Rosie and might just very well get away. Oh, that is so annoying. You're always feeling like you should get the kill on that mine. But the fact that it gets away now, and now we're going to see the Cyclone even find the second Adept, that is effectively 2 early game units for nothing going down right there. It's a scout. Oh, we actually don't see the repair coming on in, because HeRoMaRiNE's going to do the weirdest drop I've ever seen. A Cyclone, 2 Marines, and a mine. I actually don't know if I've ever seen that combination of units.
This is the kitchen sink set fest. This is whatever we got. Okay, that's fine. I got a medevac. I will use it. So into the main base is going to go. As you said, it's a Widowmine. It's a Cyclone. It's 2 Marines. He's gonna see the chrono on the Twilight. That's always really nice. Stalkers, of course, do not have blink, and Widowmine under a Reaper. Oh, 1 more shot's gonna knock it down. Cyclone falls though. Very, very nice there coming out of Trigger. He does lose 2 probes, but considering that there was a Widowmine there, considering that a Cyclone annihilates probes and everything else, 2 probes for that's not that bad. And behind this, Warp Prism's on the way. Second or third and fourth gateway are going to be finishing up soon. Steadfast, it's 4-gate blink. It's 4-gate blink once again. Let's try round 2.
Yeah, we did see HeRoMaRinE this time does not scout the 2 additional gateways. They're actually at the front. So very interesting. This time, HeRoMaRinE might not be as focused on his defense. He is going for a siege tank here. We'll see if he goes up to 3 tanks. There is this Widowmine that survived. It's put itself into a really nice position. So the save right there from HeRoMaRinE, which was fantastic, by the way, getting that Widowmine out, really is quite a nice little move. We are going to see Trigger. Oh, he's actually going to be supply blocked, warping in. Only going to be able to warp in 2 Stalkers instead of 4 until that pylon completes. We do have more Stalkers at home looking to deal with this Raven. Raven's still able to grab a couple of workers. HeRoMaRinE does have the setup to try and block this from going into the main base. There is that Widowmine in the main. Is there an observer being built here at all? Has there an observer been built? No. That's something that is missing. We do see Stim almost going down, but it will survive. Good job from HeRoMaRinE to push that back, get the very quick repair. Trigger, once again, this is a map where 4-gate blink is not as good as it was on the previous map pool, but there is plays to make because of the size of the main base if you can get in. However, HeRoMaRinE's doing a great job of not letting Trigger get in easily.
Yeah, it's going right up, belly up to the bar on the downside or the bottom side of that natural, saying, oh yeah, you're going to blink and that's fine. You're going to take some damage for it. So yeah, Trigger, still not able to get the damage that he wants. I wonder if he had one more Stalker, because he did lose 2 probes and was able to warp in at least 1 more from that round. He had 1 more Stalker. Does he get Stim? Honestly, I'm a little surprised to not see him commit to and try to just blink around the right side and away and make something happen there. But I guess it's fine. You're worried about the bio that's maybe going to knock you down. So does not get it. Stim is just about done now. And again, we're still in this position as Trigger warps in a bunch of Zealots to try to make something happen here. Charge is only halfway done, Steadfast. This looks like an awkward break attempt, but again, the Zealots don't have charge. You can try to bulldog him on top of the tanks if you want, but there is so much bio here that that's not going to work out particularly well. And without charge, they're not going to do a ton of damage to the mineral line either. Meanwhile, HeRoMaRinE on the other side, the Raven exacting swift vengeance. This is 6 total probes from that from the Raven.
It's really difficult to keep those probes alive against the Raven. You get 2 here, 3 there, 1 there. And it's been 2 in the main, 2 in the natural, 2 on the other wave. Nice job right there from Trigger. Does snipe down I think that was a Marine. And there's that Zealot drop into the natural. Charge will complete very shortly, but as you said, it's not done yet. And I mean, it's kind of given away the follow through, but the follow through isn't that surprising. So I don't really have a problem with that. However, this next attack, I mean, look at the size of this army right here from HeRoMaRinE. 4 siege tanks. Trigger is going to try and commit to the counterattack. I think he needs to give up the 3rd at this point. I think he's actually going to recall with the army. But yeah, he does need to give up the 3rd. There's no way, absolutely no way he holds this.
Those force fields like, come on, it's going to be okay. I swear I'm going to be okay. Just don't go past this. And no, HeRoMaRinE understands what he's dealing with right now. The 3rd base is dead. 9 probes are dead. And the Zealots are all dead. Actually, on the other side, not a single one of them still remains. I'm actually not sure how HeRoMaRinE was able to clean that up so nicely. But anyways, that is absolutely the case. Anti-armor missile on about half the army here. And with 1 Colossus, Steadfast, 1 Colossus is not a defense mount. Not really. Not with the 3 tanks here. That punches through Colossus armor so effectively that, especially with the Vikings on top of it, nothing can really get close. The Artosis pylon is going to mean 2 gateways of the 4, or actually the 6 now, but are going to get depowered. A couple more units are going to get warped in, but the Zealots are going to go down very quickly. No more Colossus on the map. And this is looking, well, dire is a word for it. Done is a word for it. Trigger falls down 0-2. HeRoMaRinE, the perfect group, 5-0 at IEM Katowice.
Yeah, that is a dream for HeRoMaRinE. You saw his pop up.